So today I am interviewing Inam Teja, and I'm actually really excited to speak with Inam because Inam, we've known each other for a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, as long as I can remember,
I
really.
used to come to your Christmas parties and all that, so that was always
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
But the
yeah.
the coolest memory was when you signed up. Remember I used to do these academic excellence boot camps.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that was a few years ago, and you showed up and you were like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take this course." So that was cool to have you in that class. So
That
what I
was, yeah, that would have been what, about seven, no, more than 7 years ago now. It would have been 2013, I think, 2012, 2013, when I was in high school.
Yeah, yeah, when you were in high school, yeah, yeah, and I
So
remember
yeah,
that,
almost 10 years ago, probably 8 or 9 years ago now.
yeah, and you were applying for admission to different universities. I remember that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it would have been grade 11, grade 12.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 and yeah, and then you were we'd have a lot of discussions in class and all that kind of stuff. So that was good. So here's the question. The first question is, um, look, you were already doing well in school, right? You were doing pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, did got the marks that I needed to get.
Yeah,
Wasn't failing any courses, doing well enough.
yeah.
Um, but I think like the main reason that I signed up for the course is I've always been someone who coasted through
Mhm.
class. Like I wouldn't need to try hard to get good enough marks. And so I'd get around like, the 80s, the 85s, which I mean is pretty good marks, but I was never like engaged unless there was a really cool assignment or something. I wasn't able to kick into that next level. And so when I started applying for universities and looking at scholarships and this kind of thing and kind of talking to my parents about that, it was like, okay, like but if I want to be really competitive, I do need to kick it into gear. And I went before doing Art of Being Smart, I did like a regular like tutoring session for one of the courses. Um, and I don't know, it was kind of just like boring. The guy was just telling me stuff that I already knew, and it was just like there was no like mindset shift, which is I think how you kind of pitched me initially, and I was like, oh, okay, this isn't just like a tutoring class.
Yeah. So what was the difference? Like, what's the difference between what I do and a tutor? What do you think?
Um, the there's like different levels. There's different depths of learning of like understanding, right? And so I don't know, I kind of see like a tutor as the band-aid, the top level, right? Just like, okay, I don't know this X problem. I go to a specific tutor to solve this specific problem to teach me XYZ. Whereas the way that the boot camp that Alim put on is okay. Let's dive deeper. We're not going to focus on a subject. We're not going to focus on any particular problem. We're going to focus on what's deeper. What's stopping you from applying yourself? What's getting in the way of that motivation? What's that trigger to getting to where you want to be, rather than just like, oh, okay, I need to learn how to do factorials.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly it. Because one of the things, and by the way, nothing against tutors, right? Like tutors are
Mhm.
fantastic
When there's
people.
a specific problem that needs
Yeah, yeah,
solving,
yeah.
they're
So
great.
yeah, so nothing against tutors because I know a lot of them and they really care about students and they really
Mhm.
will do whatever they can. But the way I'm different, and you explain it really well, is I address the root cause of the problem. So if you are somebody who's always getting a tutor, that shows that maybe you're having difficulty learning a subject. Well, we get to the root of that, right? We're like, well, why are you not learning it the first time? And that's really the main difference. But what I didn't realize as I was teaching this stuff, not only were the grades going up, but the mental health improved. Did you notice that?
So what I found is like initially I took your course with one subject in mind, right? I was like, okay, this is the course where I really need to bump up my grades. I really don't love it. Like I need to figure out how to get motivated, how to do well in this. But the impact was like well beyond just like, oh, that one class. broadly across the grades, and then kind of remembering and hanging on to some of those lessons in kind of outside of my high school environment, right? So taking that to university, applying that to different parts of my life, being like, okay, if I want to actually get motivated, if I want to understand why this is not doing the way I want it to, maybe it's not an ability problem, maybe it's okay, how do I organize my priorities and think about this problem different? How do I shift my mindset? And that kind of taking a step back and evaluating, where am I at in terms of my mindset when it comes to this problem? And evaluating that is not just a classroom skill. In fact, probably more of a life skill than a classroom skill.
Yeah, it's you again, you explained it so well, because what I tell a lot of parents is that, when you take the program that I'm teaching, it's literally like a 50-year investment, because people are going to hear from you what you've been up to and stuff, but it's literally a 50-year investment. And I'm telling you that the stuff I'm teaching you, I do myself. And as a result of that, I've been able to get that 4.0. I've been able to start my own business. I'm teaching at a university. I'm a TEDx speaker. And it's not because I'm smarter than anybody else. It's because these principles are sound and they work. And
I think like one of the big things that like I understand for marketing, it makes a lot of sense that this is an academic course, right? Like you're pitching it to people in terms of grades, in terms of get the 4.0, in terms of that, and that's where a lot of people's stress is, and that's where kind of the entrepreneurial opportunity lies for you. But the course content is not necessarily designed just for a classroom, right? It's much more of this is a broadly applicable way of addressing problems in your life and thinking about how do you overcome challenges.
Yeah. And as a result of learning how to overcome it, think of it this way, right? Like, and I mean, for the people listening, think of it this way. Like, we are using the classroom as your practice area for life, right? So you make yourself a better human being. You make yourself a better problem solver. You make yourself more efficient, more productive, more innovative in solving problems. And naturally, you'll do well in school. But more than just well in school, right? More than just well in school, you start doing well in all areas of your life, because what's the one thing that's changed is you, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm really excited, because I really want people to know what you've been up to. But we'll let the suspense build for a little bit.
Sure.
Is there anything that you really got and you think would be really valuable, like for other people to learn about, or any concepts that you think would help people?
I'll tell you them, like, okay, so for me there was something that was really interesting, is that like our homework, I think it was the first or second week, our homework was to watch a movie. It was like, what the heck is this guy doing? Is this some Bill Nye movie? Like, what is this? And it was literally a football movie. I was like, oh, this is not homework. I'll do this. Like, I was looking for a movie to watch anyways. Okay, this is interesting.
Rudy, right?
And so
Rudy.
like,
The movie was called Rudy.
Rudy. It was Rudy. Exactly. It was Rudy.
Yeah.
And then kind of like, oh, okay, neat. This is different. That's when I kind of knew things were going to be different from what like what I would expect from a typical course. So I was like, a movie. Okay. Let's see where this is going.
And you know why? Because one of the things you need to understand, people need to understand, is if you're not emotionally enjoying yourself, you can't succeed at anything.
No.
So
no, you gotta make it fun.
You have to, right?
And that's when I started to get invested. I remember being like, oh, okay, like this movie's probably gonna suck. Like, what's this movie gonna be like? We're doing some like art of being smart stuff, like watching some movie. This movie's probably gonna be trash. I'm gonna hate it. Whatever, move on. Watch the movie, and I was like, oh, this is actually like a fun movie. Okay, like I'm down. Maybe this homework isn't like painful, grueling homework. Maybe this is like actually like interesting stuff to think about.
Yeah, like the stuff I teach. I mean, grade 8 students are applying it. It's not difficult.
It's not age specific, and it's not classroom specific. It's like, okay, like, what's a barrier? How do you think about it differently to overcome it?
Yeah, it's basically learning how to use your mind. That's really what it is. Right? Like, no one's ever been taught how to use your mind. Once you learn how to use it properly, then school becomes easy. So
it's like leveraging things like, okay, like how do you leverage your enthusiasm to
Yeah.
to get that growth? How do you leverage that enjoyment, that passion for something that's going to benefit you long term? How do you get yourself to that point where it's like, okay, it's not something I typically enjoy, but if I take a step back and think about how it fits into the bigger picture, I can tie it in with an enjoyable activity to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And things like that. That's, I guess, a bit of a teaser of some of the stuff that you'll go through.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then as a result of you being able to trust yourself, as a result of you being able to see results come to you, as a result of you being able to have faith in your abilities, the natural effect is your mental health improves. And you start all of a sudden.
Yeah, and you just started addressing problems differently. And I mean, Art of Being Smart was part of that for me, and transitioning to university and kind of living on my own and thinking about things differently. There's, I mean, end of high school, beginning of university, there's a lot of transitions in the life of a young person. And so the course, in combination and concert with a bunch of these other changes, was like, okay, now I'm starting university. How do I do what I need to do and succeed in the places I need to succeed, and like keep up with the whole university course load, and the kind of self-directed learning that's different from like a high school environment where you have a teacher who's constantly on your back about attendance and everything. Or university, you don't show up to class, you don't show up to class.
Yeah.
End of story. And so how do you get those habits in place for the start of university and stuff? And so, and like all that whole concert of changes and everything, I think really set me up well for university. And so um the first thing, I guess, is going into university, I ended up with a full ride scholarship to start my undergrad, and that kind of kicked things off really well on the right foot. And so started thinking about, okay, there's benefits to thinking this way.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had, when you say full ride, that's like 4 years, right?
4 years. And so I ended up actually doing two degrees concurrently. And so for one of those degrees, it was everything covered, which was really nice.
Yeah. And which one was it? It was Western, right? You went to Western?
So I did honor specialization in global studies at Huron College, which is a liberal arts college attached to Western University. And then my other degree was in business at it's the HBA at the Ivy School of Business, which is at Western as well. So London, Ontario.
Yeah. And I remember I was so happy you got in because and then we talked a little bit, right? Like when you got there and stuff, and how things are going and stuff like that. But here's where it gets really interesting. I'm on my social media and I see you in Tajikistan. So, so this is let's chat, man, about that. What happened there? And not only were you in Tajikistan, you were like the CFO of a company in Tajikistan or something, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's a bit of a change up from living in Calgary my whole life.
yeah,
But
just a small change. Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, so went to university, did my undergrad, got my two degrees, both bachelor's, global studies and then business. And then kind of thinking about what I wanted to do next is like I'm like a very learning oriented person these days. Like I want to explore, I want to experience things, I want to learn about things, I want to understand what it means to be a person, a human on this planet, and what the human experience is. And so I was looking for opportunities to do work in a totally different environment from that I've grown up in. And so I applied for AKFC fellowship. So it's a Canadian government and Aga Khan Foundation co-sponsored fellowship placement where they place you in one of their partner development organizations internationally for 9 months to do work. And so that fellowship program took me to a startup incubator in Khorog, Tajikistan. And so that's like a remote rural village in the Pamir Mountains in Tajikistan. And so
Beautiful, right? Beautiful.
wonderful place, fantastic place, phenomenal people. Definitely a challenging environment to live and work in. I mean, you gotta boil your water before you drink it. my shower did not have hot water often, and like there's 3 restaurants in the town and only one of them is open on weekends, and so
Yeah.
some challenges, but just fantastic place. I mean, you can just take apricots off the trees and they're delicious, and
Yeah.
people are really nice. It's a great place.
Yeah.
And so I was there for 9 months, kind of working as like junior analyst slash investment relations coordinator for this AKDN affiliated organization. And so that was 9 months from, I guess, from June, July 2019 until February 2020. And then February 2020, there was a pandemic. And so I was supposed to actually come home in February 2020, but my flights got delayed a bit. I had some time to kill. And so I started volunteering with an organization that a couple of my friends started called Ilmkhona. And so they're fantastic people, young group of people, just being like, okay, this country has a problem in terms of opportunities for young people. Tajikistan is one of the top countries in the world in terms of remittance to GDP ratio. And so what that means is that, like, I think it's almost a third of Tajikistan's GDP is actually money sent into Tajikistan from abroad, because everybody goes to Russia, goes to the Middle East as labor migrants and sends money home, because there's just no opportunities in Tajikistan for young people to make a living. And so to kind of be like, okay, this is a problem that we want to solve. This is what we're working on. We decided that, okay, coding school technology makes sense to give people opportunities without having to leave the country. Get connected to the internet, do work as software developers, as designers, that you can do remotely, that will give you a really good salary without having to, work at a construction site in the middle of Siberia where it's back-breaking labor and no like worker protection or anything. So that's kind of the problem that we decided to start solving. And so I kind of joined the organization after it was founded. And then we built it up. So when I joined as a volunteer, I was like the fourth person working there. And so this is actually in Dushanbe, so the capital city of Tajikistan. And so over the next 2.5 years, we're now like I think almost like 35 people organization. We've got offices, 3 different offices across the country. We've trained hundreds of people, and we've got tons of successes. A few of our students have really taken off in tech world and have even become instructors for our courses. And just recently, actually, we had one of our students got a full ride scholarship to Princeton to learn computer science at an advanced level. And so the work that we were doing was really fantastic and making a difference. And so I really, really enjoyed that and really felt a part of something bigger, which was really great experience.
Yeah, awesome. And now you can sort of maybe, now we can appreciate each other's work, right? Because when you can take somebody at a certain level and you can elevate them to another level, to me, there's no better feeling. Like
it's awesome. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, right. Like you can now literally see that person fulfill a destiny that they didn't even think was even possible. Right? So that's amazing. So good for you, man. Good for you.
Thank you.
But then you decided not to stop there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough decision to kind of move on. Like, I mean, I was still involved. So I started at the organization as a volunteer. But by the time kind of last year rolled around, I was the CFO, like you mentioned. And so it was a very good job, very intense, very. There's a lot of kind of problem solving involved with the role, things that come up that you need to deal with. And so that was a phenomenal role. Tough decision to leave it, but I ended up getting accepted to a master's program. So I'm right now I'm in Canada, and I'm on my way though to go study for a master's of public policy in the UK.
at which university?
At Oxford. So I'll be studying public policy for a 1-year program at Oxford University.
Yeah, good for you. And what are
Thank
your
you.
like? How do you feel about that? Are you excited? Like, what are you going through right now?
Definitely excited. It's I mean, it's a bit of a whirlwind, kind of packing up and moving my life for 3 years from Tajikistan and kind of adjusting to the 11-hour time difference back in Canada, only to kind of go back across the Atlantic and study. And so a lot of transition in my life right now, but I'm really kind of looking forward to the kind of the opportunity at Oxford, and particularly the opportunity to learn from other people in the program. I'm looking at the entering cohort, and there's some phenomenal people in my classmates, and so I'm gonna have to fight the imposter syndrome a little bit, but generally the caliber of people that I get to learn from as professors and classmates is just top notch, and I'm so excited to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I wanted to just interject because I wanted to, like, people who are watching this, they might say, well, Inam is different from me, or Inam has, different. He might be smarter than me, or he might have other opportunities that I'll never have, or something. But I wanted to just state something which is, to me, is very obvious, and if you're watching, you probably have noticed this, is that your attitude is fantastic, and I think that's key. Like, you need to, if you're going into anything and you're thinking that I can't do it, I'm not smart enough, I don't have this, I don't have that, da da da, you are right, but
Yep, absolutely. And like that's the thing is, like, you know, there would have been a time in my life where I wouldn't have even applied for Oxford. I would have been like, no chance, why bother, not something worth doing, like why waste my time on that essay and get those references and whatnot. And even when I was applying, there was a little bit of that, because my average was not like I didn't end up with like the highest first class honors or anything. I ended up university. I didn't even think I was going to do a master's program. I was like, you know what, done my degrees, I'm going to work, I love my job, I'm going to focus on that. Like, I just need, like, the cutoff for my scholarship. So I got decent marks, but I was like, you know what, get the cutoff for my scholarship and then dedicate my time to doing other things. So I was president of the Students' Council. I did intramural sports. I kind of started my department's club. I volunteered a lot. And so I decided, you know what, I didn't even think grades were too important. I'm just like, keep my grades where I need them. And then I have so much more time when I'm not studying, where I can kind of do all these other things. And I definitely don't regret that. But when a couple of people started nagging me, being like, you really need to apply for this program, you really should do your master's, you want to do this, like start thinking about that, do that.
yeah.
I was thinking, I don't think I have the grades for this. Like I finished university only with I think it was like an 82%, which is a good mark in university. But I mean, the cutoff for even applying for Oxford was, I think, like 81.5 or something. I was right, just right at the bottom of their cutoff level,
Yeah.
for my grades. But I'm like, you know what? I think, this is a kind of opportunity that is worth applying for. And I have a lot of other things. I've invested my time well, even if it hasn't been for marks. It's been for extracurricular activities. It's been for making an impact and doing things I love and building my knowledge base and my experiences to be something that I can contribute to the world. And so having all of that and being able to take that to a program at Oxford is probably valuable. And so that mindset, even with the minimum cutoff grade to apply, was definitely something that worked out for me in the end.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give a learning point to the people watching, and that goes back to what you were saying before. But the attitude that you have is, because I remember teaching you when you were younger, but the attitude that you had, which was different from some of the other students, was that you were, and I don't think I have this, but your attitude is you can let go of stuff that, like, you can let go of these doubts pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not someone who gets hung up on things.
Yeah. So that's something that is naturally to your advantage, right? I'm different. I get hung up on stuff and it's brutal for me. And that's honestly what caused me trouble in the past. And even today, like I still get hung up on stuff and I literally have to like unwire that stuff from my brain. But the advantage you have is that you can just forget and move on, forget and move on. And as a result of that, I think that's really helped you. So for those people watching, like, yeah, you've had some good opportunities and stuff like that. But I think even if there's a lot of people who have had good opportunities, but they don't have a good attitude and then they lose it. Right. So I think the reason why
you gotta get lucky, right? You gotta get lucky, but you also have to put yourself in a position to kind of capture that luck when it comes.
Yeah. And the way to put yourself in that position, really, in my opinion, is you got to have the right attitude. You got to have the right mindset. And as you know, in my course, mindset is pretty much all we discuss, right? But so that's one thing I just wanted to point out, that your attitude, and that's why that's why I wanted to interview you, is because I wanted people to see your attitude, that you're an optimist, right? You're going to go for what you want.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic. And the flip side of that is, you know what, like, I don't know, maybe this is an exaggeration, but like 90% of the time things don't work out the way I expect them to.
Yeah, but doesn't
and
matter.
It's about, yeah, and exactly, it doesn't matter. It's about, okay, figuring out what has worked out and building on that, like you throw a bunch of stuff to the wall, see what sticks.
Yeah.
And you send a bunch of applications out there and see what you end up with, right? Like, I don't know, since probably for the last 5 years or so, even earlier, basically since university started, I regularly, when I'm applying for jobs, apply for jobs I'm not qualified for.
Yeah.
And I'll like when you get the rejection letter, like you do 80% of the time you apply for a job you're not qualified for, it's fine, whatever. I definitely get way more rejection letters than acceptance letters in my life.
And that's actually really good, because a lot of times, and again, including myself, if we get rejected, we don't get what we want, we internalize it and we start thinking we're not good enough. And this is a very common thing. And then we don't want to try again. Why? Because it's
demotivating.
Yeah.
Right? You get that rejection and you're just like, damn, like this didn't work out.
And I don't want more proof by other people to show me I'm not good enough. Right. What I'm trying to explain is that, look, you still get rejected, still things still don't always work out for you, but you keep on moving. And that mindset is critical for success. That's one thing I wanted to mention, right? The other thing
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention, which you said, which was really, and this is going to sound so counterintuitive, and it's probably not going to make sense because people are going to think, what the hell, why would he even say this? Because this is what his business is about. But the grades are not the most important thing. Even though I'm telling people I can help you get a 4.0, that's not even, the 4.0 is not what's important. What is important is becoming the person who can get the 4.0. See the difference? Everybody thinks,
absolutely.
Everybody says, I'm going to learn techniques. I'm going to do this and do that to get that 4.0. That's what I want. But I'm not teaching you that. I'm teaching you how to grow into the person so you can get a 4.0 in life, right? And that is something that I think is helping you to do better in school. And again, that boils down to your mindset, which is, hey, if I don't make it, it's okay. I'm still going to try. And very important that I bring that out, right? Because I don't want people to start thinking that you're different from them and you're separate from them, because I've seen you grow up, man. You're
yeah, you've known me since God knows when.
Yeah, since the day you tried to color my face with a pen at the Christmas party. I've seen you grow up. Like you're a good kid. You have lots of friends. You have a good life. You have an average life. And all of a sudden you get these great.
You're a normal person.
Yeah. But the key is that your attitude, the way you see the world, your mindset, that's at an exceptional level. And anybody can do that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I mean, I think that's, I mean, just going back to your second point about how the grades aren't everything. The thing is, I was at a place where I could choose, right? Like I could make that conscious decision to say, hey, I'm not going to go for that 100%. Instead, I'm going to settle for the 85, because I'm going to take that time spent that I would have spent kind of doing that kind of whatever, studying to get that marginal improvement. and I'm going to dedicate that to student politics, or I'm going to dedicate that to my volunteer work, or I'm going to dedicate that to learning whatever it is I want to learn that day. And being able to make that choice rather than being forced into it
Yeah.
made the world a difference. And then that's how I think about it too. It's like, okay, I have X amount of time in the world. I have these goals that are the minimums that I need to hit. And then everything on top of that, I can choose what to do.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I do. And I choose that to spend that time differently from other people, because that's what I want to do, what I enjoy doing, and what I kind of have a feeling will have a kind of return for me as a human, rather than just for whatever's on my resume or on my paper.
Yeah. And what, and although I mean, I know, I hear what you're saying, but the essence behind it is that you trust yourself to make the right decisions for yourself. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing. This was a bit of part of your course, is after a while, when you pay attention to how you're learning,
yeah,
you get to know exactly what kind of work you need to put in to get the marks you need.
Yeah.
You pay attention to what the prof is giving out. You kind of see, okay, here's my history,
Yeah.
right? Like you can take a step back and objectively look at yourself and say, okay, I put in this much work, I get about this mark. It's like, oh, this prof cares about these things. So as long as I hit these things, I'm going to get what I need. Like,
Yeah.
step back, evaluate what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I do this, if I leave 8 hours today to just like finish that one piece of paper, write that response, that's how long it takes. Great, that's how long it takes. Move on to the next thing after that.
Yeah.
And then I'm not worried about, am I not spending enough time on this? Am I spending too much time on this? Or, oh, I didn't need to study that hard for this because this was easy. Like, you can kind of take a step back and evaluate that rather than just,
Yeah, because when you and I always use the term self-aware, right? When you're self-aware, you can calibrate yourself, right? And you
exactly.
trust yourself, right? The problem is,
and that's not something I could do when I was in high school.
But the problem is,
even in first year of university, is figuring it out. But
the problem is most people can't do it, because most people are told what they're capable when they're not capable of. Most people are told that you can do this, you can't do that. So they just agree with everything. But if you actually develop yourself, you develop your mindset, you can calibrate yourself and you can make decisions that maybe go against the grain, but they work for you. Right. And
absolutely.
Maybe you make calls that other people wouldn't make, but you make them because you're clear on what your definition of success is.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that's exactly how it was for me in high school. Is teachers would be like, I know you can do this. Like, oh, you just need to put more time into this and you'll get this mark. Or, oh, this, and it's some of it was good advice. Some of it was, whatever, I'm not hitting my potential kind of thing. And some of it was just nagging from people. And you hear that, and that's all you hear for the longest time. And then, breaking out of that and being like, oh, okay, they don't actually know me as well as I know myself. So what do I know about myself?
Yeah.
Okay, I know this, I know this, I know this. Let's use that knowledge to improve myself and to do what I need to do.
Yeah. And that self-trust and that self-belief in yourself is really a foundational piece, which is not taught in schools today. So what ends up happening,
you don't hear that from, you don't really hear that from almost anyone. But you do hear it in your course.
Yeah.
We talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But, and what's really sad is you get these brilliant people who are geniuses, but they don't believe in themselves. So what happens? They follow the crowd and they just do what the crowd tells them to do, which is unfortunate. So before we wrap this up, I just wanted to ask you, was there anything that you kind of maybe wanted to tell the people watching, or any helpful advice or any insight or anything like that?
It's a good question. I think I want to go back to the idea of like not being discouraged by rejection, because I think that's a really, really important kind of reframing that has helped me a ton. And thinking about rejection and thinking about like not getting or not hitting your goal, not necessarily as a negative on you, but rather as a new opportunity, right? Like you get a rejection letter, you're like, okay, now I can close that door and focus on something else, right? I'm not stressing about it. I'm not thinking about it anymore. Great, I got the news. I'm done. That's out of my mind. I don't have to dedicate any brain power to wondering anymore. If you know, you can move on. And like, you know, and you were saying really well, you put it really well when you were talking about how when you get these rejections, you're kind of scared to put yourself out there because it's a confirmation of, oh, I'm not good enough, and I don't need someone else to tell me that I'm not good enough, because if I put myself out there, I'm gonna kind of feel that when I get that inevitable rejection. And I mean, even though I'm pretty good at moving on from rejection, I feel rejection.
Still hurt.
It
Still hurts.
stings. It
Yeah.
hurts, you know, like no one, unless you're maybe like a sociopath or something, no one's immune
Yeah.
from rejection.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the ability to think about rejection not as like a personal failing or a personal attack, but rather, okay, so this didn't work out, but that's not on me. That's on the situation. That's on external factors. And also maybe considering, okay, what about that rejection was on me, and what about that rejection wasn't on
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
What can I fix, and what can't? What was the situation? And being able to take a step back. And I'm a big believer just like taking a step back and looking at things from a different perspective, from an objective lens, even from the lens of someone else, you know, get an opinion on it and be like, okay, so I applied for this job. This is kind of why they said no. Okay, like, yeah, I need to move to Colorado to do this job. Of course,
Yeah.
that's why I didn't get this job. But they also said that I need to have this certification, and I don't have this certification. Okay, well, what is this certification? Let's look into that. Take that opportunity to learn about X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And kind of looking at rejection in not just like oh, this hurts, but okay, oh, this hurts, and then processing it in a healthy way to understand, okay, what can I learn from this? Where is this not my fault? Where is this something that I can use to grow? And then taking those lessons and applying them in the future.
Yeah. And I think the majority of the population, if things don't go well, they slant towards I'm not adequate or I'm not good enough. But you need to have a balanced understanding, right? You need to say, okay, maybe there's parts that I need to work on, but maybe there's other parts that have nothing to do.
Not my problem.
Yeah, maybe there's just
out of my control.
Yeah, maybe there's like, I don't know, maybe they have a certain requirement that they need a certain type of people from a certain country, and you just don't live in the country, right? So you don't know, right? So the key is you got to have a balance.
And it's like a process, right? Like, like first time I get a rejection, I'm not in objective mode, like, oh, this is why right away. Like, I feel it, it sits with me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and a lot of people, I think they stop at that step. They're like, oh, I feel it, it sits with me, and then it just stays there.
Yeah.
Right. You know, for me, it's kind of, okay, I feel it, it sits with me. I give it time. Maybe I write in my journal.
Yeah.
Do what I need to do to think it through. And then I don't try and just ignore it.
Yeah.
And then you process it, right? You take that next step after the feelings. After your feelings, what are you going to do?
Yep.
I'm going to think about it.
Yeah. And see,
be like, okay,
yeah,
great. This is what I learned. This is what needs to change. This is what needs to stay the same. Here's the silver lining. And here's what it opens me up to next. Here's the time that I get from not worrying about this thing to work on something else.
Yeah. And on top of that, what you're just describing is how to use your mind effectively. Right. And that's all I'm trying to get. That this is how to use your mind effectively, because you have your heart and you have your emotion, right? Sorry, you have your brain and you have your emotion, and you have to get them to be aligned. And if you're just thinking with this, you're not aligned. If you're just thinking with this, you're not aligned. So this is
you need to be able to sit there and feel that. You know, you that is a step. You can't just ignore it and immediately go to, okay, objective lens, because then you're going to feel crap.
Yeah.
Right. You need to acknowledge that your feelings exist and that's something important to think about. Right.
Yeah.
If you try skipping to the second step without processing, it's just not going to work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this is great. And I think, you know, we should do another one when you come back.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to.
And then we'll all be old and gray, and I'll be like, okay, now I'm on my walker. So, no, but it's good. I appreciate the time, man. And yeah, anything else you want to say, or you're okay? Or?
I think that's good. That's a wrap.